We can't forget to push record. Hey, how you guys doing? It's me, San Martin, over here at the Prescott E-News office doing a podcast, which is also live on Prescott E-News. And we're sitting here with the host with the most in Prescott Talks. And Glenn, take it over, my friend.
Well, thank you, San Martin. Glenn Martin here. Welcome to Prescott Talks, Friday morning's favorite show, right? And you know what I was thinking, Martin? We need to have some kind of music lead in, like some Led Zeppelin.
When we become really professional, we will go ahead.
We'll just keep on going and doing that, huh?
But I'm pretty sure you haven't actually listened to your own podcast because there actually is music into the intro. We have an awesome production company behind the scenes, which is our editor in chief, Lynn LeMasters.
And you know what? So all we need to do is make some requests, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What kind of requests would you like to hear on the intro, right?
Yeah, but that means we have to get licensing and stuff like that. We're gonna have to pay some people to go ahead and
put
their music on. So we might be able to find some local people that will be able to help us with our
in
whole
politics
deal.
We call that unintended
consequences,
right?
See, I get these big words, man. You guys are gonna make me feel really bad and dumb today.
Anyway,
I'm like, what does that mean? If I say that too many times, you guys are gonna have to drink.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Don't drink, guys.
Yeah. Anyway, welcome to our show. Linda Master is watching the computer, our editor in chief. So if you have any comments, just go ahead and write them down in the comment section, and we will answer them as usual in the best of our ability. And with that, I would like to welcome Bonnie McMinn, our guest today from Save the Dells. And Bonnie?
Hello, Bonnie.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Good.
Okay?
Good.
Don't be scared.
Yeah, she's like, oh. Anyway, Bonnie, why don't we start out about you? How, where you been? How you became the chairperson of Save the Dells. That sounds like a great story.
It's an exciting position. These are exciting times. I come from Michigan. I've been here 10 years. We've celebrated our 10th anniversary in our home February 28th. And we love Prescott. We looked at a lot of different places. I own a private Pilates studio. San Martin and I were chatting about that ahead of time. And
Pilates. What's a Pilates?
He didn't want me to use too many big words.
Is that something to go through coffee?
Please do not use too many big words for me.
So Pilates is a form of exercise.
Oh, okay.
It can be done in a studio or on the mat.
Gotcha.
Louder. And I have a private studio, so that means that I don't advertise. I only do my work via referral. I see a lot of people based on referrals from doctors and chiropractors and physical therapists, etc.
So is that kind of like a yoga thing?
It's a little bit different. It's a little bit more precise and perhaps drilling a little bit further down into how we use the body. So yoga is more about emptying the mind and moving, and Pilates is really very much focused on thinking and then determining where there might be imbalances and challenges, movement issues and things like that.
So you do live here in Prescott?
I do.
You live in the city of Prescott?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And you were here how long ago?
2009.
2009.
Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of got down the Pilates trail
yes,
there.
I know.
Went off track. And so you were working with Save the Dells org.
Correct.
And you were part of the board, as I kind of read briefly where you've been. And,
I've done a few things. So I was on the Yavapai College Foundation Board for a term. I've been on the Charlotte Hall Board of Trustees for a term. And I joined Save the Dells about a year ago and became on the leadership team and then got promoted for the same pay, which is zero. We're all volunteers. And as you know, Save the Dells is a grassroots organization that was founded actually in about 2016, and just with the idea of looking at some of the lands that might be threatened, and that's really how we came to be. But the idea is to just work. What we've tried to do is work with the city of Prescott to come up with a solution so that we could save the 500 acres that we've been talking about from the beginning. And so there's a few misconceptions about Save the Dells. The first is that we don't support annexation or we don't support private property rights. And that's really not true, just bluntly not true. We've supported the annexation of Arizona Eco Development under the conditions that the city negotiate to save the critical 500 acres in exchange for AED getting all the city services such as police, fire, water, sewer, road support into perpetuity, which of course is paid for by the taxpayers, and we pegged that about in the tens of millions of dollars. So
I have I'm sorry, I don't mean to
No,
interrupt.
that's fine.
Going back to the foundation of 2016, this has been my biggest question is who founded this and how was it quote unquote founded?
Well,
And the person behind
Sure.
it founded.
So Joe Trudeau is one of the founders. Gene Wilcox was actually involved. Walt Anderson, John Farmer. So there were a number of people.
Let's talk about John. Who is John, and where is he from? Is he born and raised in Prescott, or where's...
I don't know that much about John. I was not involved with Save the Dells in 2016, and,
Okay.
and he had actually departed before I came on board.
Okay.
But he was a supporter, and this land was identified, and that's really what people who support open space do, is look at critical land acquisitions and how this can be saved. If we want to talk a little bit about open space, I did bring the city of Prescott. Actually, this came off of eNews website because you printed it nice and large, Lynn, which I appreciate. But the critical open space purchases, the criteria would be aesthetics, unique or dramatic visual effect, protects scenic view corridor, visually enhances primary transportation corridor, unique view from site, natural features that enhance quality of life. For example, rock formation, body of water, trees. So certainly, this land represents that. So number one, we've got. Number two, protection and preservation. Protection of environmentally sensitive features, wetlands, native vegetation, wildlife, floodplain encroachment. 100% there. We've got the wetlands now, we've got the native vegetation, the ancient forests that we have there, the wildlife, of course, and then the floodplain, which should be a very significant concern for AED, given the No-Name Creek and how it floods. 3 is use potential, ability of the land to be used for passive recreational purposes, including trail linkages, outdoor recreation, ecotourism, rock climbing, etc. Potential secondary benefits to the community would include watershed protection, drainage or regional retention areas, noise buffer, and continued agricultural production. So obviously we fit there. I mean, it specifies rock climbing. That's like a pretty significant one. The 4th one is location. So enhances spatial definition of urban area, protects remaining undeveloped land within large developed areas of the city, expands the distribution of open space across the city, provides key link or extension / addition to existing park / open space area, provides additional open space in proximity to existing or proposed urban development, improves overall access to open space. Clearly.
So the city. I'm so sorry. This is the city's
This is-
guidelines.
this is
and as
the
of
city
right now,
guidelines.
the property that A&D owns is
AED.
AED is a
Arizona.
county, right?
It is
It-
county.
it's in the
That's
county.
where it is right now.
Right.
Okay, so when the city adopts, land in general, this is kind of like their bylaws, I guess you would say. I mean, there is a difference right now based off of if AED decides to go ahead and develop it without the annexation, so he doesn't even have to live by those bylaws. Is that correct?
Right. Let me just get to the last 2, which are
Okay,
short,
sure.
and then we can
bet.
really talk
No,
about
go
it.
ahead.
So number 5 is need for immediate action, development pressure, development status, potential to remain as open space, attitude of property owner. We've got that for sure. And then number 6 is acquisition consideration, availability of land, ease of acquisition, price of land, significance of economic loss to the city, potential for increase in prices in the future, potential for acquiring other source of funding. So this land perfectly fits the city of Prescott's criteria for open space purchases.
Which is a good thing.
Which is a very good thing, and I want to address your question, but I want to go back to something else. So AED is in the county. We all agree on that, because there has been some misinformation, and I do want to answer any questions and really restate the facts
You bet.
and the truth as it is. So AED is in the county. He made an annexation application in August to come into the city. The city spent 6 months plus working to try to get some negotiations going in terms of protecting some of the critical areas of the Granite Dells, this area. So yes, he could do, if the city does not annex him, he could stay in the county, and he can do, and you talked to him a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, was it last
2 weeks
week?
ago, yeah.
My life is in dog years now.
Flies.
It's-
Flies when you're having fun. I understand.
yeah,
Bonnie.
I mean,
I want to create I want to recreate the weeks, man.
Yeah.
I want to add one more day. But okay, so
So-
the difference between an annexation to Yavapai County, laws as far as subdividing property. I mean, if it stays in Yavapai, is this where? I mean, I might be mistaken by these, but the property cannot be subdivided after 2 acres, or is it 1 acre? But if he annexes it, then he could go ahead and
Right.
cut those things up, right?
Right. So, yes, and he explained this to you. I think 36-acre parcels.
Right.
And then through different means, they can be subdivided down into a minimum of 2-acre parcels. So he could create 36-acre parcels all the way down to 2-acre parcels. So he can do that in the county
In the
right
county,
now.
right.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think is better?
Well,
I mean, as far as development, if there, obviously, if he gets what he wants, is the development is going to be what it gets.
I think, again, I'm going to allow Bonnie to answer that question, but I think there's no argument that going into Prescott would be the optimal
Right.
option, and for everybody, included Prescott, for Save the Dells.
Right, for
And
the citizens,
as
for the
you read
county.
through those,
Yes.
I kept on thinking, I don't think any of that's disputed, even with Jason. So do you feel that, or do you feel
Well,
like some of that might have been disputed?
No, I mean, so what we've got is, we came out with our position paper in probably probably July of last year. And we wanted to write it very carefully and have it be as explicit as possible, and, somewhat flexible, of course.
Sure.
Because if you don't know, if you don't know where you're going, how do you know when you've gotten there? And so we wanted to give the city the idea of what needs to be protected, because he's required, coming into the city, he's required to provide 25% open space.
Right.
Now, and I will specify, because some people don't hear this properly, it is private open space. We know that. We are asking, though, for the city to basically change how they negotiate, which is they don't really have a give and take typically with developers. It's the developer comes in, asks for what they want. They quibble over certain things, but the developer basically gets what he wants. And so what we're saying is, because of this land, because it so perfectly fits open space, that we're going to put a price tag on the resources and services that he gets from the city. So the city and its citizens are giving tens of millions of dollars in services, right? We agree. City water, city sewer, those are our assets. I met with Councilman Lamerson, and he said, that's our water, that's your water, we're all shareholders. So with the city giving the shareholders, the citizens of Prescott, water, sewer, police, fire, and support for the roads, infrastructure, the citizens should get something in return for that. And this is the critical 500 acres in the heart of the Dells. So when we want something, the point of rocks is obvious. It's iconic. It's the beloved landscape. It's in the movies. It's, go to any Prescott website and you're going to see the Granite Dells. And if it happens the way that AED wants it to happen, you're going to have to get rid of those pictures on the website, because there's going to be houses 50 feet off the trail. So, in exchange for all of those services and resources that we pay for, and by Lamerson's own admission, our city, those are our resources. We're saying that AED commit 500 acres to public open space. That's the trade-off. Resources coming into Prescott, getting a Prescott address, and then the beloved 500 acres, which fits every single criteria here in the city's open space.
Now, the understanding of 500 acres, you want him to donate it, or do you want the city to purchase it?
Okay, so how much is all the services worth? Tens of millions of dollars, right? We're suggesting that the city negotiate as well as they can, which clearly that did not happen, and I'm not blaming the city. The negotiation broke off, and I think that's good that they did, if it didn't happen the way they wanted to, because at one point the city was looking at something that would not have development south of Iron King. It would not have development around Point of Rocks. All of this was in his original proposal, and if you want to go to Save the Dells Facebook page and look at our hike and bike video, it's extremely explicit. It's 3 minutes and 54 seconds, and it shows exactly where these developments will happen, and they are right on the trail. So we're suggesting the city negotiate.
When you say right on the trail,
Well,
I
50
asked him-
feet off the
yeah, I
trail.
asked him about that, and he says we're not touching any of the trails. So
Well,
is
no,
this
no,
the truth,
no.
or is this
Well,
not the truth?
Let me restate.
Okay.
The city of Prescott, through a federal grant, when the Rails to Trails program happened in the 1990s, that land became city property. 50 feet from the center of the trail, 50 feet from the center of the Peavine, on either side is city property. Beyond that, so 50 feet from the middle becomes, it's AED's property. And if you walk on the trail, you'll see the little fences, and there's, no trespassing and things like that. So I'm not saying exactly directly right on the trail, but 50 feet.
So none of the trails with this development are going to be destructed.
Well, we can't say that. Well, it depends on your
mean-
definition of destructed.
Well, I mean, in most cases, inhabited.
It'll
Because
still
right
be
now,
public access, I think. Would
yeah,
be
well,
the-
I think that's what I was
Yeah.
Yeah.
told to me.
Yeah.
I'm not a big trail hiker, so everybody might hurt me and kill me out there. But I'm not that, and people have been telling me you got to go up there and
You've
hang
got
out.
to. Yeah.
I've been here all my life, and I
You
have
have
gone there,
to.
and I've done rappelling off of the rocks when you're driving through the dells. But I mean, in most cases, this is what was said that none of the trails will be.
They're owned
Well-
by Prescott. So
Yeah, the
he
trails,
can't-
the trails themselves. So if I'm not going to say if, when, and I'll take you out there.
Yeah,
There you go.
I'm
Do we have
game-
a date?
I'm game.
Get your-
I'm game
get
to-
your
I'm
hike
game to-
boots on,
I'm
Buster.
game to go out
I'll
there.
take
and,
you
and
out there.
Get
We
to
can-
my nature
We
lively
can do
abilities.
it by bike, or we can walk, or we can jog out there.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I know. Okay,
Oh, yeah,
that was I oversold it. Sorry. So
He actually,
You put food in this, and I'm in.
Yeah.
I mean tacos.
okay, so
especially.
we'll have a nice picnic. We'll
Okay,
go
there
out
we go.
there.
I'm
How's
in.
that?
So Jason used the word enhanced public access. A matter of fact, I kind of put my notes together just so everybody knows, and I put down the time. So if you want to go back into his
good
interview,
for you.
at 12:37, he was talking about enhanced public access to trails in the future in their plan. So I'm not sure.
Well, let me go back.
Yeah.
So when I say right on the trail, I don't literally mean he's going to come onto city property, but it's 50 feet, 100 feet from the trail. So the houses will be visible in many places. Some places they may not be. But again, we don't know. We know what the original plan was, and it's pretty much right on the trail.
Yeah,
and
but
50 feet off the trail.
Aren't houses going to be are going to be visible no matter what, Bonnie? I mean, we go back to Storm Ranch. Storm Ranch is going to start breaking ground, he said, sometime in the end of April. It's got 300 buildings going on. You're going to see rooftops.
So you're
whether
speaking-
it's in his property or if it's in the Storm Ranch, that area is getting developed. So
You're talking about South Storm, so
Right.
directly across, right? That deal was done. We refer to it as South Storm. There might be a different name for it, but if you were to walk along the trail and you get to the lake, if you look just to the right as you're walking up the Peavine, there is open ranch land there, and there will be 227 homes. I think it's about 299 acres, something
Are
like
they
that.
going to be in acre parcels, or are they going to be like cookie cutters?
They're
I mean,
Prescott, so they
I've
don't
not
have
seen
to
the
be-
plat. He could do. That happens to be Charlie Arnold, who's a former council person. That's his development.
Yeah, isn't
and
he also doing that development right there on Willow Lake or Willow Creek? No, not Willow Creek. Miller Valley Road.
He might be.
He's the one that's doing the apartments
The
right
apartments,
next to
yeah.
the McDonald's.
I'm trying to keep up with Save the Dells and
Right.
and,
I know.
and
I know.
HDD.
Let's talk
I
about
can't-
Charlie
yeah,
Arnold
right.
right
yeah.
now.
Well,
Oh,
let's just
a whole nother
So-
subject, but
but
I have so many questions. You know, being born and raised in Prescott, Arizona, it's been one of the most like awesome things because I really don't like put my nose into anything. I always tell Glenn that I'm not political, but he's like, you're totally wrong. And I mean, but I see these things. I acknowledge these things. I see that people are coming into our town. I mean, I see the housing coming in. I see
Right.
people like you, beautiful people that are wanting to go ahead and have a settlement in a beautiful area. And, you know, you being here 10 years and then me being here all of my life, 41 years, I mean, do I have to hate the people that come here, or do I have to love the people that come here? I choose to go ahead and just keep my nose in the air and just be like, this is such a beautiful place to be. And I think my idea is, or my thoughts are, is like, why can't we have a thing that says Save Prescott? I know we
I
said
like
that before that.
There's a candidate actually running for council, and that's one of her taglines.
Is it?
It's
Who is she?
Seg Press. Can I say it on the air?
You can do whatever you want.
news breaking right here.
Right here. Kathy Rusining is running for city council.
Okay, she
And
what
her
position?
hashtag Save Prescott.
All right, look, I'm on her side already.
I know.
For the love of Prescott is one of her taglines.
For the love of Prescott, I mean-
and on her buttons, I didn't wear one today. It says hashtag Save Prescott. So it's been acknowledged, and I don't think we need to dislike the people who move here. But I think the more people we have, the more open space we need. So Prescott is really, the general plan is looking at 20,000 additional homes in the next.
It's going to grow.
It's going to grow.
Prescott is going to go for 20,000 homes?
20,000
or
more
just
homes.
Yavapai
No.
County.
No, Prescott. It's 20,000 more homes.
Okay.
There's 16,000 on the books right now. Not developed, but developed, not built. So
Can you
land
tell our
development.
viewers where to find that information as far as the 20,000 homes? Nobody? Economic?
I don't know.
Okay, if
Well,
we-
the
if-
city of Prescott. Maybe
if there's somebody out
can
there that
people-
knows where to find
yeah.
this information,
Yeah.
go ahead
We
and
got a
chime in.
councilman
Yeah.
somewhere watching,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
maybe they can.
We can check that out.
Yeah, definitely
Yeah.
put
Yeah.
that in there. And I mean, in this development that AED is doing, what is the projected time? I mean, I know he said it, but do you know the projected time?
It's very hard to say. I mean, they've broken off negotiations. He's got to do a resubmission of his plan. I'm sure it'll have to be looked at a little bit, and then the process will go to the public. It will, from what I understand, because these negotiations broke off, it will immediately go to planning and zoning. Planning and zoning has to give 21 days notice before they have their first commission meeting. So whenever he presents, it's 21 days past that for the first P&Z meeting, and they will have, and I don't want to put words in George Sheets' mouth because he's the commissioner, the chairman, but 6, 8, it's hard to say how many meetings they will have every 2 weeks. And then from there, they will put together their recommendations. They frequently will have a punch list of issues that they have or concerns. And then it goes to a 60-day public comment period. And then it will go to the city, to
So
the
that
council
point
for
right
vote.
there, Jason said that he was going to be in planning and zoning sometime and show a new map sometime in the middle of April. And that was
I
at
can't wait.
1459.
I can't wait to
of
see that
the-
map.
But I want to go back to the trails.
Yes.
Because, again, in Jason's interview, and that was at 3932, he said that he was going to make wide buffers on the Peavine and Iron King and anywhere else, so that your question was actually, Martine, you asked him, would there be buffer zones? He said yes. but we're going to have to wait for the map to see
Right.
how
Yeah,
large
I'm
those
really
buffer
waiting to see
zones
that
are.
map. He says
So-
we're going to be happy with this.
So
Yeah.
this whole thing, we need to be reminded that there is a new map coming again in April, in the middle of April, per Jason, and so we're going to really have to refer to that map on a lot of the questions that we're going to be talking about
Sure,
today,
but-
and some of the things. But I just wanted to bring that out as well.
And can I say
Yeah,
something about the
absolutely.
trails? So you had asked about no trail crossings. You didn't ask it specifically that way, but the original, and I agree with you. We have to wait for the new map, but our position remains. But in the original map, and let me just preface this by saying, Mr. Giese held he called it an open house beginning second week in in May, and there was a lot of people and concerned people and a lot of conversations, and this was at City Hall. And then he held a subsequent meeting 2 weeks later at Mile High Middle School. And very similar, I mean, a different format. He didn't do much of a presentation. He let people come and talk, which was great. I mean, so there's been that openness and willingness. He heard loud and clear the concerns. And the map that he submitted, his plan, was pretty much what it was before he even had his open house, which included 5 trail crossings. So there were 3 on the Peavine and 2 on the Iron King. And that is city property. And so the city of PV will have to grant him an easement, the city of Prescott, if he does a road crossing. And so you've got the trail, you'll come out there, we'll go on bikes or walk, and you can see that there are lots of people train for triathlons out there, they're riding with their children, there are horses out there, dogs out there, and the idea of having a 100 or 200 foot wide crossing on the trail. There's one right now, which is the Storm Ranch, and there are pipes there so that people know, you're not, you sort of slow down. I mean, you can swerve between the pipes, and then it's a dirt road. Yeah. And there's a stop sign on either side, so it's safe, and obviously there's not a lot of traffic at Storm Ranch. But if you add 352 homes, which is what his plan is for the area that we're looking at. It's 1,185 in the south annexation, but 352 thereabouts in the land that we're talking about. On either side of the Iron King, it's a floodway. In fact, I did a little bit of research this morning, and one of the reasons that the railroad stopped running, you'll like this, San Martin, is because of the flood damage that was happening to the railroad itself, to the trail. So the Peavine and the Iron King were actually railroads. With the money that was awarded to the city, they pulled out the Over the Hill Gang and other groups, pulled out the railroad ties, cleaned it up. But you can see where there's the serious flooding can happen pretty much any time. And we saw it back in July with the microburst. The Peavine Trail got washed out. The No Name Creek gets flooded, 30, 40, 50 feet across because it's all rock, it's all granite, and granite does not absorb. So it's 3 or 4 feet deep. It's a very swift running stream. And this happens frequently. And so I thought that was a historical piece that I didn't know, is they actually shut down, in part, the railroad because of the flood damage to the rail trail.
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't know that either. That's,
Right.
Again, as this process goes on, I'm sure we'll have Mr. Giese back. I want to hit him with that question. That's a good point.
Yeah,
I want to hear what the plans are, what the idea.
Right.
So
but
we all know.
Yes.
I don't want to guess.
Well,
Right.
so I was trying to look up on how many people actually utilize the trails in general. I thought that this deal had the information.
90,000 plus
A year?
a year.
Is it a year?
And it's growing.
Wow.
Because it's very popular. It's like, this area is like, it's in the top 10 of things to do in Prescott. And if you go out there, like I was out there on last Sunday, And I met people from Minnesota. I met people from Missouri. I met people from Washington State. So you just go out there and you see people and everybody says hello. It's very friendly. And then I actually saw a great horned owl nesting. And there was a woman from Prescott who said, "Oh, go down this little hill and you'll see this great horned owl." And I went down and there he or she, I'm not sure if owls are... Who tends the flock? But
Who's
Who?
but-
She said it first.
Who's who?
We always
But-
try to come up with a tagline
Yes,
for every
that's
time we
good.
come in
All
here.
right.
But that's going to be
Yeah.
it. Who's who?
But then there were people from Minnesota. And I'm like, oh, you have to look up here. So
And I don't think that's contested, that this site is, heavily used, is great for tourism, and he mentioned that as well. And again, it's kind of like we want to remove, and I know this is a very emotional thing for a lot of people, but we're trying to remove some of the misnomers and the facts and try to understand, and I think you did a really great job, Bonnie, because I know, looking at Save the Dells, I know that it's nonpartisan, as
Correct.
you say. I know that there's a lot of, we had Noel Campbell here, and Noel out of nowhere comes out and says, "Save the Dells,"
He wears
and
his
I'm
button.
okay. And I know that you do believe in the property rights, and I
Absolutely.
do know that you want it to be annexed into
The
Prescott.
city.
That's something that you don't. Hopefully we get some of these, rumor control down, and we control that here on Prescott Talks.
But can I
But-
just
oh,
say
sure.
one
I
thing?
want you to-
So I wrote this directly because I did watch your show.
What'd you think?
I liked it.
Did it work okay?
I think the hosts were fabulous.
Just
You're
because
coming back, aren't you?
Just because we're cute doesn't mean you have to tell us that.
You're not
Behave.
pushovers. Come on. Yes. So this is a direct quote from Mr. Giese. "Whatever we do must be sensitive to local needs and concerns of the area's citizens." And so that I don't know how to respond to that other than this is what he says. Yet, and he said something similar to this during his open houses, but then we see what he produces or what he provides. So I think there's a disconnect between that, and that is certainly a concern of ours.
Well, do you feel that he hasn't been sensitive to? He had a couple meetings, which he doesn't have to do.
Correct.
There's no,
Yeah.
and he wanted to get public input.
Right, yep.
And I think he recognizes the uniqueness of the area. I think he recognizes that he wants to preserve it as much as everybody else does, because it's, in his words, in his best interest to preserve the pristine and nature of the area. I guess my question is to you, Bonnie, do you feel that he's sincere, or do you feel that he speaks on one side and maybe not so much on the other?
Well, there's the old adage, action and words.
Okay.
So I hear his words. I've read his words in the paper when he wrote a talk of the town back in July. I've heard him on your show. I've heard him. I went to both open houses, and I've heard that. But then when we see the proposal, and this is history. This is now a historical record. The proposal did not really acknowledge any of the things that he said, because if he was sensitive, he would have looked at not building around Point of Rocks, not building on south of the Iron King, north of the Iron King, building right in No Name Creek. If you overlay his development, it goes right through No Name Creek. So in Michigan, we lived on a floodplain, and it was a little creek, and ours ran all the time. But if we had a significant rain, it would be 50 feet, 100 feet across, and that's because that's what floodplains do. And in this area, because of the canyons and the valleys, it's even more pronounced. And there's a possibility that engineering will come back without, and he hasn't done any of the requirements in terms of an engineering study. There are archaeological sites, which I'm sure your son knows about, so that needs to be done for archaeological mitigation, etc. An ecological study, an environmental study. You can go out there, and I'll take you right to the spot, San Martin, where you can see the wildlife corridor. So it's not a trail, it's because it's private property, but the wildlife traverse this. They go from the South Iron King to the north and up through the valley, and there's a pond there. And, in July of last year, the pond was full. And that's pretty much where he wanted to put the resort.
How many houses are in the area right now?
I have no idea. There's a development west of his development, and that's county development. So I don't.
If you actually go into the Dells, there's a lot of housing there already.
Which is in the county. Most of it's in the county.
Do you know how many housing is there now?
I have no idea.
So he's got two. What am I trying to say?
Annexation requests.
No, he's got Jasper, which is north. Now, is that something that Save the Dells is concerned about, or are you more concerned about that area south where the Point of Rocks?
Well, so Jasper is actually in Prescott Valley, so we have nothing to say or do about that. I
heard about that this morning.
I would encourage you to go out there and look at it. Okay. It's 2,900 homes.
Yeah, I heard about that this morning actually because.
What did you hear?
The same thing about Jasper. And if you guys don't know anything about Jasper, it's probably time that you guys look into it. I heard that was going to be a pretty big development. But yeah, I mean, this is crazy.
No, I took that as that was part of the annexation into Prescott.
No, Jasper is Prescott Valley.
Okay.
100%. Right. So if you look at the map here, so this peach color outlines, and this is on our Facebook page and our website, the maps. But so Jasper is here. This is Mike Fan. This is Granite Dells Estates, Mike Fan's development. This is state trust land here, and this is the land that we're talking about.
And that's on your Facebook page?
Yep, this is on our Facebook page.
For those of you who might be watching, I don't know if that's going to zoom in or not, but the map that Bonnie is referring to, you can go to Save the Dells Facebook page and find that same map.
Yeah. And then we blew this up on the other side to show exactly where. But if you do go to our Facebook page and look at our hike and bike, you'll see how invasive the housing is. So while he talks about a buffer, I mean, I don't know how big of a buffer, and I mean, those are things that we have to look at.
We'll look at the map when it comes out.
But this is the critical piece, and that's what we've committed to. And so back to your original point, why doesn't the city buy it? Well, that's a good question. The city in 1998 put together a bond, $15 million. You were here probably, for Watson and Willow Lake. The taxpayers paid for that. So the city did do that, and then 2000 we had the sales tax initiative for the trail, the open space and the roads. And to date, the city has spent $20 million on open space. They raised $117 million, and the rest of that went to roads. So
how much? Just go back to how much money that Save the Dells has raised. What do you guys plan on doing with that money, and what is the money doing right now?
Well, I don't have the exact numbers of how much money we've raised, but we are using those funds to create public awareness.
Sorry.
Yeah, we're
getting
a whiteboard question, so we're all like, what?
But go ahead and answer that, and we'll answer that question.
So we're using the money for our advertising, which is substantial. We have a billboard. We have created these maps, these books. We've rented space. We did our community forum back in June. And so we're using it to create public awareness because that's what we do. We're an advocacy group. We would like to raise more money and we actually have the Granite Dells Foundation, the Granite Dells Preservation Foundation. They are a 501c3, and they are exclusively working to raise funds to buy open space. So, in a perfect world, the city would get as much land as they could. Again, it's not a gift. And if AED does decide, like Dr. Ascari decided, he got his Whispering Rocks. His Whispering Rocks development approved. 80 acres was annexed into the city. he immediately gave the city 20 acres, 25%, right away. He just said, this is for the city. This is public open space.
Isn't that something that he'd have to do legally, though, right?
Well, yes, there's obviously the legal process, but his intention and his actions became reality. Now, I'm sure that I don't know if the paperwork is done yet, but there's the contrast. 80 acres, here's 20 acres of open space, City of Prescott. I appreciate what you're doing for me because now I can do the things that I want to do on that land. And so it's not, it wouldn't be even a gift from if AED were to say, here's 400. I was Italian in a previous life, but
I'm talking with my hands today.
It's all good.
I can't help it, but that's why it's good it's not radio, because they wouldn't see it then, right? Anyway, so if whatever AED chose to create as public open space, they would get a tax credit for. So it is a financial benefit to him, to them, to be able to donate land, make it public open space. They get a tax write-off, and then we can buy the rest. And so until we know exactly what that rest is, but we're raising money, and this is, we're all unpaid, we're all volunteers.
Sure.
And so we're working very hard, and we thank every one of our supporters for the positive support and the financial support.
Hey, I had that question in my brain.
You want to do it?
You can read it.
So why not buy? Question from a reader: why not buy those special spots from him as well as the 25% he has to give?
And that's certainly a possibility. I mean, for sure, that's a possibility.
And he could go ahead and put the price tag on those acreage, right? Is that what's being said?
He said everything's negotiable.
Yeah,
That was part of his interview.
So that is possible. But again, I think, and I appreciate the question. But again, if you go back to our value proposition, which is services, citizens, taxpayers, shareholders, in Lamerson's words, we have value here. We have currency. This is currency. Water, police, fire, sewer, roads. That's currency. That's worth something.
But there's also currency on the other side,
And
too. When he's building, he's buying permits. He's buying
Sure.
a lot of services that he's going to be taking from Prescott. So there's going to be a take-in and an outgoing
Sure.
type flow
Yeah.
of cash both ways. So
And
it's not all just give me tax money, right?
Right,
And
but
would you agree with that?
Yeah, sure. Those permits, unless they get waived, permits have gotten waived in the past. You know that.
I don't know about Prescott going to waive any permits
Yeah, I
anytime
hope
soon
not, but-
because I will.
But that has been waived in the past.
It's kind of like where we're getting our money from, It's
Touchmark's
part of
permits
the-
were waived. You know that, right?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I'm aware of that.
$500,000 in permits were waived
Right.
for when Touchmark was built.
right.
Unfortunately, the council agreed to a higher level, so 50 feet was the building standard, the height, and the developer came in and said, we want 80 feet, and the city came back and said, okay, let's give you 70
I
feet.
could get all
Yeah,
political
yeah,
on that, but
yeah.
I ran with Mary Beth Wren's campaign for mayor, and I was very aware of one of the people that was involved in that as well. So
We already
But that's a
mentioned
whole
we already
different-
mentioned him, didn't we?
We're
But anyway, so
go another direction
no, I
on
know,
that,
but the point is that yes, there are permits. There's a lot of things, but again, you have to look. If we use Jim Lamerson's words, we are shareholders and we deserve to get something.
and those are wise words.
And they are wise words.
Absolutely.
I mean, he put it into a different
I
perspective.
agree.
I think, meeting Jason and acknowledging, what his life is all about. Obviously, he's an investor. He made, a great choice on buying this piece of property that's now a big, huge, buzz. And I for some reason, I feel like he's going to actually do something that is right for the community. I mean, it's not going to be exactly what we want, but if he gives at least half of the 500 acres, will the Save the Dells Council be happy and be able to share that with anybody?
We will not be happy with 250 acres. We won't.
300 acres,
We won't.
400 acres,
Let's make a deal.
450.
If we can get to over 400 and then we can buy the rest, yeah. And then it becomes a community project, absolutely.
I mean, in all honesty, once again, going back to being.
And plus, wait, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I don't.
No, go ahead,
I
Bonnie.
don't like it when people interrupt. But I'm
No,
sorry.
go ahead,
So
go ahead.
No,
I'll
you're
just,
not interrupting.
All right.
I'm okay with this.
But so now I've lost my train of thought. But I seriously have lost my train of thought. So go and I'll.
We were
I'll have
bidding.
to-
We were bidding on how much,
I'll
and then
have
you were
to-
saying that if it goes 450,
Yeah,
then you
I
would
know,
buy
I know, and
the other.
it's gone.
I really.
It'll come back.
I mean, him
You'd be in
being
the
a-
middle of a Pilates, and all of a sudden, there it was.
There it was. I knew I was had to say something. So I mean, just
I'll have to
going
write
back
it
to
down
having
next
him actually being a resident of Prescott, Arizona. His kids are going here to the high schools and junior highs and stuff like that, and him acknowledging the beauty of Prescott. I believe that there's going to be something that's good. I mean, but in all honesty, when you're trying to go ahead and invest and make money and have a future for your family and their family and all that, this investment was a great investment back in the days that somebody should have freaking came up with this investment money.
Well-
Coming from the corporate world, I understand CEOs. I really do. I do believe the same thing that you're saying. I think that he wants to do something really unique and something special in our community. That area is going to be developed one way or another, so it's going to happen something. But I think he's also trying to compromise with, again, save the Dells and the people that live here. But on the other end of it too, he's into, he's a CEO. He's got to produce numbers and money as well to the shareholders, and though I think he's trying to do the right thing. I think that he's engaging the public comment. Again, I think we need to wait for that map. But I think in Jason's mind, personally, I think he does. He wants to do something really special in that area. He wants that to be a special area that's going to bring attractive tourism in our area, something that we as live in Prescott can drive by and say, that was well done, it was well thought out, and it was well planned. So, that's kind of my impression.
Why do you
but-
feel that way?
Well,
Like because of what he says? Go look at Jasper.
well, okay.
Go look at the backside of Yavapai Hills. Seriously, I mean that's the challenge that we have. Is he cut down the whole mountain of the big hill at the Jasper development. It's terrible. They've had a ton of drainage problems because of the the devastation to the land. That roundup of antelope happened because of their space is getting encroached upon. So we have to look at actions more than words.
I agree with you.
And that I
do.
think is really important. And if you look at the backside of Yavapai Hills, the people who live on Hornet Drive, there's flooding. Last year, the city resources were out there for an entire week with a bulldozer and a backhoe to pick up the debris and the dirt that came down because the drainage wasn't done properly. People had sandbags in their driveways because that drainage wasn't done properly. And then if you go up the hill, then he's basically just cut pads into the hill. And that particular development is going to go over the top of the ridge. That's going to go over the ridge line, and you will see that from the Peavine Trail.
Well, and one of the questions that San Martin asked him, "Are you going to blow up the mountains?" I think was pretty much the same thing.
I mean, I'm
and his
scared
point
he's gonna
was,
blow up the
there's no
mountains.
way that he was going to drill and shoot the Point of Rocks. That wasn't going to happen. Now,
Well, that's only one part of it, though. And if you look around there, you look at his maps, he has houses around the Point of Rocks. I met with a city official the other day on a different matter, and he said, well, how do you feel about the Point of Rocks? And I'm like, he says, well, how do you mind houses around the Point of Rocks? So maybe he won't drill and shoot the Point of Rocks, but he'll drill and shoot around the Point of Rocks. So that's kind of the same thing.
well, he also brought up density transfer. One of the things that Gene Wilcox at that time brought up about moving housing away from the Point of Rocks and giving it a buffer zone. Your
Right.
comment?
Well, I think that would be terrific. I mean, if we look at this map, I know you can't see
Yeah,
it
yeah.
out there, but it's 15.
There's a map in her hands, folks.
It's
Okay.
15,000 acres. So he's got a ton of land that he can move this from. And, so his 352 homes can be moved up a little bit. Because
Moved up or moved back?
Moved up, moved
More
back,
south?
moved. I wouldn't go south. I mean, he's got to go north. So there's land in here, there's land up here. This is still will be devastating to the citizens and to any visitors that come to Prescott to walk up the Peavine Trail, and where there's all this grassland and it's just gorgeous, and there will be houses on either side. But what we're trying to protect is this ecologically sensitive, environmentally sensitive, and historically important, the iconic Point of Rocks and the area around it, the No Name Creek. There's the Indian ruins in there. There's wildlife that's pretty special in there. So the density transfer would work out great. I mean, if he went further north, there's places where he doesn't have water. I mean, this is all county land, so he's got, I think, something like 12 wells. Ranchers had wells all over their land, but there are certain places where he doesn't have any water, and the city of Prescott could go ahead and accommodate that. And again, as shareholders, we would agree to that for a fair trade.
One of the other things he brought up too, and we kind of went over this list, so you thought about this question. I know on the Facebook page there's questions about knocking down trees and standing oaks and all this other stuff. And one of his comments were pines and standing oaks are not in his best interest to tear them out. That was at 39.52 of his interview. Your say?
Well, that's great. I mean, there's a beautiful forest. There's a cottonwood and an ancient oak forest, and the pines and so forth. So if you walk down the Iron King, either side it's woods. It's forested, and there's again the floodway, so you can see how high the waters rise because there's brush high up on the metal fences and things. So yeah, I mean, I don't, if that's what he's saying, then he can't build in there. If we take him at his word that I'm not going to destroy pine forests and so on, then he can't lay a blade in that area. And I do want to make another point, which is I've taken 2 developers out there myself and a builder, and none of them believe that he can actually build in these areas that we've defined. So on either side of the Peavine, after you go past the Storm Ranch Road, it's rock. It's difficult build. And then you get past the Point of Rocks, and it's rock there. And then you go down the Iron King, and it's floodway, and it's forest. So a developer would prefer to develop something that's a little bit easier as opposed to something that's really hard, because his cost to develop on this land is going to be really, really high versus doing something in a flatter area. So
I have actually been over there to the Dells. I mean, totally like craziness, but I went in there and I think it was called Happy Oasis. I mean, I think that's her name, Happy Oasis or whatever.
Yeah, I know
but
her.
she has this structure into the buildings or into the rocks. So I'm just like, oh, this is so awesome. So you walk into the living room, all you do is have the Dells rocks inside the house. I think it's so beautiful.
Hard to hang a picture. Another question.
We got a sticky note up there.
Another one of his comments were, Save the Dells wants a 500-acre buffer. Nothing like that in our area. That was 46.24 in his. Do you know of anywhere else that any developer has been asked to donate that much land in any other project?
well, again, I wouldn't call it donating. I would call it a fair trade.
Okay,
So-
a fair trade. I'll go with your.
I just want to make it clear because people think we want to take his land. There's nothing about that with our proposal to the city. There's nothing about that in any of the conversations that we've had.
Fair comment, Bonnie.
Thank you. I can't really speak to that essentially, but this is totally unique. This is different from anything else. And yes, they acquired the land out of bankruptcy.
It was his land to begin with, though. The way I
It
understand
was-
it, they own the note. Somebody bought
Well,
it. They
but-
couldn't pay for it,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it went back
But-
to bankruptcy court. They came back with a bid. They won again the bid on their own
Right.
land.
Yeah,
They were the
right.
bank, if you will.
Didn't they ask other
So-
organizations
No,
to come and purchase
I don't
that?
think they did. I don't know
In the-
exactly how
in the
the
conversation that we had, he said
had-
that if somebody had opportunity to
Everybody,
purchase this,
it was an open bid process
well,
that
then
where
the
other
city,
people
the
could.
city should have looked at it, or the city should have peeled off
You
the
know,
500 acres.
I'm not going to open that book, but
That
I
thought
can't
has
comment
crossed-
any further
that
on
thought
that.
has
But I know
crossed your mind.
somebody
Yeah.
who actually told me that the city was looking at that during
Yeah.
that time. But
Well, there's a
until
lot
I
of
talked to her-
politics, yeah.
Yeah, until
Yeah.
I talk to her
Right.
and make sure that it's all good for her, me to use her name, I'm not going to do that. So,
We respect privacy.
yeah, absolutely. So,
I'll be saying it.
you're like going, no politics, Glenn, please.
Say
no."
it. Just say it,
Just
man. Let's,
say it.
Let's
Just-
go ahead and make this talk show exactly
Yeah.
what it's all about.
I'll
That's
talk to her
it.
and we'll discuss that later. And then one of his comments, and this kind of struck me because I even made a comment about, its location, not so, location when you buy property. It's not the amount of property, but the quality of property. That was at 46.31
Right.
towards the end. Your opinion?
Well, this is fantastic, natural, wild land. And so, yes, is it quality? It is quality for wildlife.
No, that what he wants to donate, or I'm sorry, what was your words? Transfer.
The trade.
So he wants to trade off
Fair trade.
what he's saying, a trade. It may not be 500 acres, but it's definitely a quality amount of property in a quality area.
Until we know what he's talking about, I can tell you what he was willing to give to the city: 80 acres on the outskirts of the Dells, like on the edge of the property. So he had, on his map, he had an 80-acre piece that he was going to give to the city of Prescott.
So we all agree. We
Out
need
of-
to wait till the map comes
Out
out.
of,
so we
out
can,
of,
I really am
almost
anticipating that new map, and he's not going to present it on the 26th. What are we expecting on the 26th?
Well, the 26th is actually where we have presented a resolution to the council and asking the council to support our position, which is to save the 500 acres.
And what do you think they're going to do? I mean, give me your
Well-
honest opinion. Do you think our council people are going to go ahead and oblige with this petition that you guys are putting up?
Well, so we submitted the resolution on February 12th. And then we met with the counselor. One of our people met with one of the counselors, and there were some issues with a couple of points, the language. And so we decided to redo the petition because it was, it perhaps didn't really need to be in there. So based on that counselor's input, which we respect that counselor, we decided to not amend the petition or the resolution, but take it back and resubmit. So we took out those 2 points and we resubmitted the resolution. And I met with city folks the other day, and they had some issues with the language, and I'm a little bit disappointed by that because before the original resolution was submitted, I requested a meeting, and I was turned down for that meeting, and I was told that there was nothing new to report. When in fact, there were 3 new things to report, and I can't disclose all of them.
I got you.
Why
But-
can't you?
Yeah.
Well, so
I just want to know. Why can't you?
well, I can. Okay, the city.
Okay, write 'em on the whiteboard,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
we'll
and then
read 'em.
we'll just
Yeah.
hold them up. Well, the city.
I'll do it for you.
Well, the city had been doing focus groups, talking to people to see if their new plan was appealing to some segment of the population. They didn't include Save the Dells, and I respect them. They can do that, but we certainly have a voice, and we should be consulted. I would think if you're going to talk about, hey, is this a good deal? How do you like this map? You might want to ask the people who are representing. We've got over 5,000 signatures, 4,000 Facebook people, 4,000 MailChimp people. We've got a lot of support. So there was that. The city thought the deal was done. They were going to make a big announcement, a big splash at a large community event. And none of that, was, so those were kind of big things, and I was told there was nothing new to report. So I would have shared that. So we've tried, as a group, we have really tried to work with the city. We've tried to be advocates, but not adversarial. And I have heard feedback from some counselors, and they find us appealing, and they understand it, and this is the democratic process, and this is our right as citizens to do that. But other counselors have referred to us as bullies and adversarial, and I find that unfortunate because we really are advocating for the public. We have gotten a ton of feedback, a ton of support. We couldn't do this without our supporters helping us along the way and encouraging us and coming to events and so on. But we hosted our community event. We invited the council and the city officials. We hosted our hike and bike, which was our event in the fall. We worked carefully with Parks and Rec to make sure that we had the right things. Joe Baines called us and said, hey, you guys need to have security. So we paid for the Arizona Rangers to come out. They were a great group of people, came out just in case there was any issues, which there weren't, thankfully. They wanted additional restrooms. We paid to bring additional porta potties out on the trails. So we've done things to really try to collaborate with the city. We've met with them, and they have been meeting with us, but I've never gotten the phone call back from the city, like, hey, come to this focus group. Jason Giesey's presenting, and we'd like to have you hear the reaction of the people. That hasn't happened, and it's disappointing, whether it's myself or someone else.
It's kind of crazy. I missed all these questions, but let's go ahead and bring out one. Thank you, Chris Cookino, touching in on this. Why is this all in the backs of the city of Prescott? Where is the county, the state, the PV, and Chino? Are we going to direct any of our efforts? When I say we, as a person, as living in Prescott, are we going to hit these people up? Are these councils? Have you talked to the Yavapai County councilmen? Where do they all stand?
Well, I can't really speak for them. I've met with them, and they're watching what's happening. I think it's safe to say they don't want it in the county because it would be very difficult for them.
So they're just
county
stepping
roads
away. Not me. I don't want to be directed
I don't
in
want to
this
say
attention.
I did talk to Supervisor Jack Smith, and when it comes to annexation, any city can annex county property. There's no dispute about
Right.
that. So, he even used the word, if we contested it, we'd lose. So,
Right.
If
Right.
Prescott wants to take that property, or if PV wants to take that property, the county steps back and says, it's all yours. So there's no...
Right, there's no contention. His application was for the city of Prescott, so he's requested annexation into the city of Prescott. That's why the city's dealing with this, is because he's requested it into the city of Prescott.
So basically, direct our attention to the people that he directed his attention to, and then everybody else is free. Don't get me wrong. I'm just asking a simple question.
It could be an interesting discussion to get collaboration with the region, because it certainly is the region. But from a legal perspective, he's made the annexation request into the city of Prescott, not into the city of PV or into the city of Chino or so on. So I think it is a regional situation for sure. Yeah.
So another question came in on a lot of your flyers and stuff. You show the lakes of Prescott. Do you think by a little bit that's a little bit deceiving, thinking that they're going to take away that piece of land or piece of beauty?
the property is actually off the lake.
way off the lake, about a mile.
You don't
if I'm
see
not
a
mistaken.
lake from any of his property, the way I understand it.
So
No,
tell
it's-
us about your. Tell us about the
logo?
The logo. Why did you choose to go ahead and utilize that picture with the lake? Because ultimately,
because it's a gorgeous spot, and the lake sit right below the.
I like pictures
This
too.
is in the Granite Dells.
Yeah.
The Granite Dells are in the backdrop, and if we look at this one, we can probably see the Point of Rocks from here. So we put the San Francisco Peaks in there too. But this is a visual from Watson Lake. So Watson Lake overlooks the Granite Dells.
Yeah.
I can see where I live. I can see the Point of Rocks from my house.
Will this development be able to see these lakes?
The development won't see the lakes, but the lakes will see the development. If you go to Watson Lake,
just like that big old white house with the blue turquoise roof.
Yeah, so that's part of the new development that you were referring to. Yeah.
Shadow Ranch or wait, what's it
No.
called? Storm Ranch.
South Storm. Yeah.
Excuse me.
So that's the first house that's gone in there, and
Isn't
you're
that
going to
the-
see.
And that's a beauty.
Isn't that the owner of
You're
the
gonna,
house?
yeah, it's the owner, and you're going to see
See, the
226 more.
That's my point.
Yeah.
It's it's
Right.
the rooftops like we
Yes.
were talking about.
Yes, yes. So, no, I don't believe that this is misleading. When you go to Watson Lake and people can see the Granite Dells from Watson Lake, that's what they see. So,
Okay. I mean, but in all reality, this specific development that AED is doing, they basically cannot,
Reach the water.
or
Well, they
It's
can.
not waterfront property.
it's not
Yeah, there we
waterfront
go.
property.
Oh,
Well,
not
it will
water.
be if he builds on No Name Creek. It will be waterfront property
if there's
because it'll flood.
when the floods come to Prescott.
I'm sorry.
When
I couldn't resist.
I liked it.
when the floods come to Prescott. So I mean, I'm
Good one, Bonnie.
I'm 100% to save Prescott in general. Let's talk about a little bit of growth. Can we stop growth? Do we want to stop growth? Or what? I mean, what is your expectations for Prescott in the future?
Well, I'm not
Do you-
a city planner.
No, just as your own personal beliefs.
Well,
Because you love Prescott, right?
I do. I love Prescott.
I love it too. I lived here all my
love
life.
it, yeah.
And do you really love Prescott to the point where you don't want to bring no more people here or economic growth in general?
And that is not that is as an official of Save the Dells. That's not our position. We have from the beginning. We support annexation. We would like sensible growth, and like I said to you, maybe it's so hard when you're on the radio. When you're on this,
I
it's
like
like
to use the word planned and organized growth.
Plan and organized,
Because I've
right,
lived in
right.
several cities where they just threw houses out there and
Right,
it was
right.
chaos.
Right.
And so
and the traffic and
Yeah,
so on.
exactly.
But so planned and organized growth with the mindfulness to have open space. So I think I said to you before we came on the air, the more people we have, the more open space we need, because we just you look at New York City and what the vision that they had with Central Park, and what would New York City be without Central Park? This part of our landscape is Prescott Central Park.
what do you think? And that's interesting you just say that, because what do you think about like Camelback Mountain? But here's this beautiful mountain hiking area.
The only mountain.
When you go and when you go down, and when you go there, it's surrounded by homes. I mean,
Right.
is there a balance there somewhere,
There's
Bonnie?
got to be a balance. And I think given the fact that AED has so much land, he has the opportunity to create that balance. He has the opportunity, and it will cost him less money to develop in the land that we're looking at as opposed to developing somewhere else, and have a development that's looking down on the Dells as opposed to in the Dells. I mean, we've got the canyons, I think, is across the street, and those homes are tucked in the rocks, and it's not. I mean, it's not my favorite place, and then you've got Granite Gate, which was a resort that never became a resort. It became a
Rest home.
A rest home.
So, do you guys own property in Prescott?
I do.
How
yeah.
much property do you own?
I think 1.35 acres.
And that's just your home and that's it?
Mm-hmm.
Do you own property in Prescott? I don't
No,
own no
I'm
property in
county.
Prescott. I'm just like, I want a renter
I'm,
for life.
I'm one of those with a Prescott
You're-
address, but a county. I'm in District 5.
You don't have the amenities.
No.
The amenities. So,
Hey, we have water, though.
my my thing is that once again keeping the integrity of our natural, like, this is a beautiful place.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of people come to Prescott, they're like, I don't know why I'm so happy, and my biggest and funniest response is because you're breathing oxygen,
Clean air.
clean air. Now just imagine that. I mean, it's just a simple gesture, but this is exactly what we produce here in Prescott, Arizona. So when I was younger, whenever I seen a big, huge, people coming and moving in, I had problems with their children. And I was a child at that time, but these children come in and they're just like, I'm going to push my gang life and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, dude, stop moving here. Stop moving these, because you can't take the gangster out of the hood, and just bring him into another place and expect him not to be like that.
They should have listened to Prescott Talks last week, right?
Yeah, that's what should have happened. So,
I missed it.
What we
It
have
was on the Second Amendment.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
and so what we have here is like, we can't stop growth. And when people own property, it's kind of like I'm going to take some of your property, and you're just like, what? And I've seen it in some cases. People are like, you're going to take 10, 20 feet of my property, and that's my city property, and now it's a city property. Like, I mean, how do you feel about that? If you were to go ahead and purchase 2 acres and you only get an acre and a half, how does that feel? I mean, what happens?
Well, I mean, it's what am I getting in return for giving away a half an acre?
Yeah, I mean,
right?
yeah, that'd be the
so
that'd
that's
be the question.
really that's it. So
Yeah, that'd be the question.
If I own 2 acres and I give the city a half an acre, what do I get in return?
Yeah, and
So what I get in return is police and fire and water and sewer. Whoops,
No
that's
way.
not my ring.
That wasn't me.
I thought I turned it off.
He did not
Sorry.
turn off his phone.
Did not advise.
I
The
hate that
producers
happens,
voice.
especially in church. Wasn't me.
That's God coming in
God
and saying,
calling.
"Hey, man, think about me."
When I was working, I'd always say, President Trump, I'll talk to you later.
That would have been a perfect gesture right now. Hey, listen, I'm here. The best part about being able to be on this talk show, and I'm so happy that I can be a co-host with you, is that I get to learn a little bit more about people and people that are actually having, an honest conversation. But the biggest thing is, having the community come together. I asked a simple thing on my Facebook because I feel like I'm an influencer here in the local area, and I said, I need questions. And one person, Rob, I'm gonna name drop you, bro, but he goes, "Save the Dells." That was his comment, and then my comment was, "Why?" Why? I said, where was everybody when all these other developments were coming into town, such as all the housing around Thumb Butte, all the housing around the Dells in general. or
Thumb
even-
Butte did get saved, though.
A lot of it.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
talk about that.
Yeah.
How did-
Well, I mean, it was before I came here, but yeah, Thumb Butte got saved. There was a group. There was going to be a development on Thumb Butte,
yeah, it wasn't
and it got saved. The city actually purchased the land as open space,
okay.
and that was in how long have you been here?
I've been here 5 years.
Oh
so.
yeah, but it was like in
Way before my time.
It was like 2007 or 2008. So the city had actually I actually have all the land acquisitions in the Dells that were purchased, including the most recent Storm Ranch purchase, which was closed in 2018, but the planning was in 2017, and it's 390 acres.
Any other questions? We're kind of going.
More space than we can
Yeah.
ever use.
See, I'm
I
just
don't-
such
I
a
know,
charming.
see, I'm
yeah,
telling
right?
you. You said how long we're going to be here?
Yeah.
Just keep on rolling.
We could go all day, right?
We do have a lot of people chiming in, and we could go ahead and answer all those questions, or maybe Save the Dells Council could go ahead and chime in on all these questions. And yeah, let's go ahead and wrap it up so we could go ahead and move on with our lives today. But the 26th, what are you guys expecting?
On the 26th.
What do you guys want
You,
from
you
it?
have you have some
Yes.
an event. And I want
Right.
you to go
Well,
ahead. And,
and we encourage everybody to come. 2:45 in the courthouse or on the city hall steps. Council chambers. They will be listening to our presentation of the resolution, and we are hoping for a yes vote, of course, because a yes vote will the councilors will be not putting a stake in the ground. It's a line in the sand. It's telling AED, look, we are serious about this land. We really want to come to some kind of agreement on this specific 500 acres. And that's what we're hoping for.
All right. Well, I mean,
Fingers crossed.
I think it's fair enough to go ahead and say that we all want to see the same things happen, and we also don't want to go ahead and control the growth of the area. But you know what? In moderation, I feel like it can be possible. And then one of the biggest questions that I did ask him was, would you be able to control the growth depending on our water? So anyways, let's go ahead and end it with that.
yeah. Well, again, one of the things, there's always going to be some folks that aren't going to agree with us, and some people are going to, and that's just our human nature. So again, we're kind of. Go ahead.
Okay, one more thing. This
Yeah.
was
Just one more thing.
One more. So this is a book that Granite Dells Preservation Foundation put together for phenomenal photographers, Walt Anderson, Mike and Twyla Coffey, Mark Strickland, and Matt Turner. And this is a beautiful book. We have this book available for a donation, as does Granite Dells Foundation. And this is just, it tells it all. It tells the story. It tells the importance of this beautiful landscape.
Is that Prescott E-News gift donated to us?
Maybe so.
She's like, oh, maybe.
Maybe so.
I want that book.
All right. Okay.
Bonnie, thank you so much
Thank
for
you
coming
very
on.
much.
Thank you.
I
Thank you
must
so
say,
very
Thank
much.
you.
You know,
See,
in
wasn't
closing-
that bad, was it?
In closing, you represent to Save the Dells well.
Thank
Yes.
you very
Okay,
much.
thank you.
Thank you.
And
Thank you
next
both.
week,
What is happening next
week we have the one and only. We have Chief Deborah Black.
All
Nice.
right.
I've been wanting to
She's
meet
awesome.
her.
So
She's fabulous.
you're going to get your wish. I talked to her via email yesterday, confirmed, and yeah, we're going to have the chief on at 10 o'clock next week. So stay tuned. Save the Dells,
Great.
Martine.
Awesome.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, y'all.
And don't
Talk
forget to
you.
go ahead and check in with Prescott E-News. Join the newsletter, and every Saturday and Sunday, all these podcasts get put out there. So if you guys like what's going on here, you want to hear some more things, give us your info and let us make it happen for you. Once again, thank you for all chiming in, and thank you
Thank you.
guys. I really
Great.
appreciate this. I'm 100% not political.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Last word.
Thank you.